company has 6 vehicles. So we have a H, L, P, R, S, and V. And they're serviced during a week, Monday through Saturday, 1 per day. So yeah, we're just putting them in order, right? From Monday through Saturday. So we know that if we have 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, we know that this is Monday and this is Saturday.
Could you zoom in just a little bit on the question part?
Yes, of course, right here.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so let's go ahead and dive into our rules. Oh, I want to make this sedan, a roadster, a sedan, and a van. How many are there? H, L. Okay, I'm just going to rewrite these. Okay, so go ahead and read our first rule.
Sorry, I'm just going to reread the entire question. Accompany 6 vehicles, hatchback, limousine, pickup, roadster, sedan, and van for service during a certain week, Monday through Saturday. That would be 6 days. 1 vehicle per day. Okay, so the first rule is at least one of the vehicles is serviced later in the week than the hatchback. So I would diagram that, and with the what do they call inference?
You would infer?
Yeah. So the only thing that I would infer is that the last place that a hatchback would go would be in the 4th slot.
At least one of the vehicles will service later. So
5.
at least one is later than the hatchback, right? So this is how I would diagram that, where I know at least one comes after the hatchback. So I'm going to make this Monday, this Saturday. And then what some people will do is they'll actually draw not hatchback under Saturday. Like this can't be the hatchback.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so let's go on to rule number 2.
Oh, that's actually smart. I like how you diagram the first one. Okay. I'll just put a question mark there. Okay, the second one is the roadster is serviced later in the week than the van and earlier in the week than the hatchback. So I would diagram that with putting the roadster with a hyphen on either side of it.
Okay.
And I would put V before S. And wait, it says the roadster is serviced later in the week than the van. Okay.
Let's break this up. Don't be afraid to break it up as part. So what does that first half mean?
It's serviced after the van.
Excellent.
And then it's serviced before the hatchback.
Perfect.
So which also
I have to do that or else I get confused.
Yeah, and now I'm jumping ahead where I'm like linking
Oh,
basically.
perfect. Yeah, I'm like, okay, and we know another one comes after here.
Right.
Perfect.
So I have to sneeze. Either, okay, the pickup and the van are serviced on consecutive days. So, okay, so it says either the pickup or the van. So I would go PV, right, or VP, because it doesn't specify that which days they're consecutive. It just says that they're serviced on consecutive days, right? And then it says or the pickup in the sedan. So I go P over S, P and S, or S over P, but not both, right?
Yeah, so it's P, yep, you're right. So it's PV or it's PS.
Or SP or PS, but not both. And so this also plays into our second diagram. Potentially, but I'm not going to write that down because if it's
I wouldn't at this point either.
But it's just something to keep in mind. And then it says the sedan is serviced earlier in the week than the pickup. Wait, sedan is earlier in the week than the pickup, or earlier in the week than the limousine. So it's either SP boxed together or SL boxed together, but not both, right?
Yes. So how I think about this is if the sedan is serviced earlier than the week than the pickup, in this situation, where do we know that the limousine is?
I don't know. Yeah, that's an inference I wasn't able to make.
So
I got as far as
yeah,
diagram.
no, perfect. So the sedan is serviced earlier in the week than the pickup, or earlier in the week than the limousine, but not both. So we know that it's going to be one of these, right?
So the sedan is either okay. Oh, okay, that's so smart. I wasn't even paying attention.
Oh no,
So the
you're fine.
sedan is either earlier than the pickup or the limousine.
Yes, but whenever the sedan is earlier than the pickup, what must be true of the limousine on the left side here?
Ask that again.
So on this side over here, whenever the sedan is earlier than the pickup, what must be true of the limousine then?
Then it's later than both of those things.
So can the limousine be after? Can the sedan be before the pickup and the limousine?
Oh no. So if it's earlier than the pickup, then the limousine is before the sedan. And
Yes.
if the sedan is earlier than the limousine, then the pickup has to be earlier than the
So
sedan.
I draw this out like this, so I know it's one of these two, and that's easier for my brain to keep track of.
Jesus Christ. Oh my God. Okay. See, okay, so I wish we had more time because I just really want to talk about making inferences because I just feel my brain go into like a buffer and then it just shuts down. Um,
Does that make sense so far, though?
it does. So, do you make an inference like that with practice?
Yes, and watching videos. I think that's where like the LSAT demon videos will be huge for you, and like the couple videos that we have done will be helpful as
Okay.
well.
Um, so if it's earlier, then that means that it's this, or if it's earlier than limousine, then that means that's the pickup, right?
Yes.
Okay. All right, so we have LSP or PSL, which is funny because there's also, okay, so isn't there a world in which P and S have to be consecutive? Or there's a possibility that P and S have to be
Yeah, in,
consecutive?
in rule number 2.
Mm-hmm.
So from here though, I think that I would just go into the questions. I wouldn't even bother with worlds.
Okay.
Except one thing that I would note here is, where can S for sure not go?
Um, um, it can't, okay. It can't go last. We know that.
Excellent. And where else can it not go?
Um, Wait a second. Um, I don't know. I don't know how to make that inference.
It also can't go first because we're always going to have L or P before it.
Oh, that's so smart. Okay.
I feel like that's an inference a lot of people don't make.
So regardless, it'll always okay because it's always sandwiched between letters. So it
Yes.
can never go first. Okay. Um. Okay. So we know H cannot go last, and we know S cannot go last. We also know that V cannot go last.
Right.
Um.
Where can V go? Sorry.
Hold on, and we know that R cannot go last. It's just really a process of elimination at this point. Um.
So yeah, so V, well, I wouldn't draw all those out, but the one that I think is interesting is V can't go in any of these. So really V only has 3 options, and I feel like that's probably the most helpful.
Wait. V can only go from Wednesday to Monday.
Yes. Because there's at least 3 that have to come after it.
Right. I remember you said 3 to the right of it. Oh, so the only thing that can go last really is L.
Oh, actually, that's really interesting. V, S, V, R can't go.
Mm-mm. And
L
H can go.
can. Can V? No. Can P can? No.
No, it can't.
Well, yeah, it can. And this last
Can
one it could, right?
it? Okay, so here's my question. So here's where I'm getting confused, because every single time I look at rule number 4, I'm always considering rule number 3.
Okay, so that one, we don't know which order these go in, and that's probably what's confusing you. Like
But
when
what
you
about
where okay, so can P I think the only two that can go, this is really interesting. The only two that can go last are P or L, I believe. H can't, R can't, S can't, and V can't.
so if P goes last, would S have to come next to it immediately? Or if P goes last, the only thing that can go next to it would be V, and that's impossible in one of these worlds because V at least comes before R, H, and something else.
Oh, look at you. Yes. Okay. So this is exciting. So I just made two worlds quickly down below here where I did one where P is going to be last and one where L is going to be last because those are our only options, right?
Right.
So when we know that V or S has to be next to P, right?
Yes. Okay, so here's the thing. There is no world where V could be next to P if it's last.
Excellent. So in world number one, then who has to be fifth?
Then S would automatically have to be fifth, and then the limousine would also have to be pushed up.
Excellent. So we know that S has to go here. And so, yeah, so up here, then we know that it has to go V, R, H at some point. We don't know what order, but then it looks like L could go L could be first, second, third, or fourth.
Um, so if there's a world in which L comes last, then S and P both come before it, but that doesn't particularly mean that they'll be consecutive or coupled together,
No,
correct?
we know that P and S have to come before it, like you said,
And there at least has to be an H.
and a VRH somewhere. So really, we don't know anything else about this one. The only rule that we kind of have to pay attention to is that P has to be next to V or S.
P has to be next to V or S. Okay.
But yeah, look at you.
I guess I'm a little confused here though. Because when I look at rule 4, okay, never mind. Because I'm looking at rule 4 as if they're consecutive and they're not. That's my
Yes,
issue.
they're not consecutive.
They're
Yeah.
not consecutive. I think that's my issue. Like I'm looking at them as if they were, and I'm like, they're not consecutive. Just because they have hyphens doesn't mean that
Yes.
P,
Whenever I usually put mine in blocks and boxes when I know that they're right next to each other, or I don't put hyphens and I would just draw like LSP in a box, and that would mean that they're going in order.
So what was the last thing you said? P either has to be next to V or it has to be next to S.
That's
Okay.
the only thing that we would really have to pay attention to in that second one.
All right. I guess I have to run some more drills to be not.
No, no,